G'day everyone and welcome back to Toxic Garage Customs. I'm Todd and you're watching Toxic Garage Customs. Firstly, I'd like to say I apologise for not wishing you a Merry Christmas at the end of my last video. So I hope you had a great Christmas. It's probably going to be New Year's Eve by the time you see this video. So I hope 2024 was good to you and I hope 2025 is even better for you. And I've got something that can really improve your 2025. It's the steering conversion that this whole video is about. Now, I just need to say right here, the title of this video may appear a little bit deceiving when you see what it's about. Don't turn off, don't switch off. That HQ Monaro that is on my thumbnail for this video and the title, that car is owned by a friend of mine, Troy O'Brien, and it is a beautiful LS powered car. It is absolutely a killer, but it doesn't have this steering conversion. It was just to grab your attention. Why? Because I don't have a Monaro that I could put a picture of. But this vehicle just here, Toxic, this is registered as a HQ Holden. It is a HQ Holden Ute chassis, 350 Chev, turbo 400, Salisbury 10 bolt diff. It's got everything that makes a HQ, same as HJ, XZ and WB. So the steering conversion that I'm about to do to this, that I am super excited to say is killer, is being done to a HQ Holden. It's not being done to a 52 Chev truck, although it looks like a 52 Chev truck. Having said that, anyone that has done a rebody like I have, using a HQ, JXZ, WB chassis, could do this same conversion. So this video is really for you HQ, JXZ, WB guys, whether it be a Monaro, one tonner, Ute, Statesman, panel van, whatever it is, but it could be for the rebody guys as well. So watch the video. I think you'll find it really interesting. Why did I do this? Because the steering in Toxic was pretty ratty. It was a factory power steering, but it needed work, and also they're pretty loosey-goosey from the factory, in my opinion. You know, they're pretty loose. I like the big steering wheel on this as well, so it made it even looser. A lot of guys, if you haven't got power steering, perfect conversion for you. Don't go and buy a Holden steering box. Go to Port Steering and Alignment and get this kit, put it in. It's a bolt-in thing, it really is. If you've already got power steering, get this kit. It's a bolt-in thing, it really is. A lot of people have heavy steering, so they want power steering. Yep. A lot of people want better, so they go for a rack and pinion. Well, to me, this is a really good alternative to rack and pinion. Why? Because it's a hell of a lot easier, quite frankly. And probably, yeah, it's a hell of a lot easier. I imagine it's probably more economical as well, but I don't know the price of a rack and pinion. I'm rambling. Watch the video. You're going to love, I think, what I have done to the steering in Toxic. I'll catch you at the end. Well, I've just been editing this video together, and about 1,000 times through, and I'm not exaggerating, maybe 2,000 times throughout this video, I referred to port steering and suspension. Ignore that. Ignore the 2,000 times that I say that. Maybe 3,000 times. Port steering and alignment. Say it after me. Port steering and alignment at Port Macquarie. Stewie. Port steering and alignment. I've got to apologise, because if that's going to screw with your head, then that's not the intention. So port steering and alignment did the kit that I'm about to rave about. So, hope you had a good Christmas. It's the day after Boxing Day, 2024. So, yeah, hope you had a great Christmas. I did. Had the family around. It was a nice warm day, good for the pool. And now it is 37 degrees today, but look at that. How could you not be happy with that? But that's not what this video is about. What are we doing today? Well, Toxic is in need of some work and has been for a while, in fact. A good friend of mine, Stuart from Port Steering and Suspension in Port Macquarie. He's a brilliant guy. Sent me, before I moved to this property, probably 6 months before that, probably 18 months ago, he sent me a steering conversion, power steering conversion for my truck. Well, it wasn't actually for my truck, it's what it's going on to, but it's for a HQ, J, X or Z, or WB I think, Holden. Because that's what this is. This is on a HQ Holden chassis. If you're not in Australia, then I'm sorry, that might not mean that much to you. So he's done this steering conversion, which improves the steering on these things no end. I am told by him, and I trust him emphatically. So what we're going to be doing is taking the old power steering box off this and putting the new power steering box in. Now, at some point in the video, or at the end of the video in the comments or something, I'll give you all of the details. How to contact Stewie, everything about the steering conversion, everything about the box, because he swears that this thing is going to change my life. And I hope so, because I would love this thing to steer better. As it is, the steering box is pretty flogged out, has been for a while now, and I'll show you in a little while something's a little bit embarrassing. I noticed one of my tyres is completely worn out, and I've just been persisting with it. Why haven't I got to this earlier, if I've had the steering conversion for 18 months? Because we got this property, we knew we were getting this property. I had to move, I didn't want the truck off the road. I didn't want, I needed it. I need it all the time. If you have a look, we use this as a work vehicle. We use it as a farm hack. So, like it's got real straw or hay in the back of it, because we use the thing. So it's going to be a bit painful for me, to be completely honest, having it off the road. And I haven't chosen the best time, because all businesses are closed down. So I know that I need a high pressure power steering pipe modified. So I doubt if I'm going to be able to get that done sometime soon. But I figured I can't drive it at the moment, because I just realised how bad this tyre was. So I'm not prepared to drive it. So I figured this is as good a time as any to pull this thing apart. And it needs a little bit of TLC generally. She gets a bit neglected, as do all my cars. Anyway, let's start making Toxic steer in the way that Toxic needs to. Got Sam's GMC in the house too. Future video. Righto, what have we got? So, let's get in there. Remember, if you're in America, it's a right-hand drive car. That's our steering box right there. Actually, if you're from America or something like that, these things are very, very similar to a Camaro front clip or something like that. And you'll probably, when I get underneath this, you'll probably notice, if you're familiar with those cars, just how similar these are. So that's our box there. Now it's leaking. It's been leaking for quite a while now. And the conversion that we have to put in here, I'll explain more about it, but is almost a bolt-in thing. Now mine's a modified car, so there might be an obstruction here or there, but I don't think so. But that is the guy that we're going to be pulling out. Now that box there is worth a lot of money to someone, and once I've pulled it out, I'm going to put it up for sale, because people doing builds on Holdens that they want to be as original as possible, they know what those boxes are worth and how hard they can be to get. But that's a different story. So I'm going to put this thing up on the hoist, and we're going to pull that out. Okay, first things first. I don't like getting dirty, and this thing's putrid. So there's been oil, transmission fluid, or power steering fluid coming out. There's a little bit of an oil leak as well. So everything is putrid, and I don't like getting dirty. You can see how much is just running down out of that box. So I'm going to degrease it before I do anything. I'm still going to get dirty, but I will get less dirty. Much better. Look at that. You can actually see stuff. I'm still going to get dirty, there's no doubt. You can't get everything clean. But I'm going to get far less dirty. And that's a good thing. So there she is, just there. They're not hard to get off. Not hard to get on. The main thing is dropping the pitman arm. And that will require a puller. You can belt it with a hammer. And hopefully it'll come off that way, but I do have a puller. And then it's got 3 bolts, I think it is, from memory. Yeah, 1, 2 and 3 up the top there. 3 bolts. There is the rag joint, that red thing just there, which will also be replaced in this process. And then there is a high pressure pipe and a low pressure pipe which go from the top of the box across to the power steering pump. This guy just here, and my power steering pump is leaking from the back, and I think it's just the union, so that's been something I've been putting off for ages as well. I can still see there's all still oil and stuff across the back here, so I'm going to do more degreasing. I'd rather do more cleaning now to the car than to my hands later. So let's do a bit more cleaning. I have no idea whether this foaming degreaser works any better than anything else, but it sure looks cool. Well, as I said, it's a bit embarrassing, but this is the reason that I decided it was time to do the steering box. Look at this tyre. Lovely. Beautiful deep tread. Look at this tyre. No tread. Now that's not the worst of it. When I came to see this, where is it? Come on, I know you're there. There, when I came to see that there, that was when I thought, might be time to do something about this. So it's worn there. I presume that's a balance issue as well as a wheel alignment issue. But it is time to change the steering box and replace at least one tyre. And it's always good practice to replace both, but I'll see. One will be better than none. Now, I'm not going to lie, it's been about an hour since I cleaned this because I'm having trouble getting motivated. But let's get this thing off. Stop talking about it, do it. Okay, so as far as the job we're actually here to do, the first thing I'm going to do is take this big nut and spring washer off the pitman arm, off the bottom of the steering box. So I haven't got a spanner that big, so I'm going to use a shifter. And as I've said, you often need a puller to pull the pitman arm off. Now I probably need to, I'll try and pop it off in the first place. Now I'm not going to use the puller in the first place. I'm going to use the bang it with a hammer in a couple of spots method, because you may not have a puller, and we'll see. The banging it with a hammer method might just be as effective, and let's face it, if you don't need to buy a puller, then use a hammer. How this particular puller works is you get these 2 halves, split them and put it around that. So this is a smaller version of the same thing. So you pull the 2 halves apart and then tighten them up either side of the thing that you're trying to remove. So I've got those on there, and these arms screw in here like this. So one goes in one side, one goes in the other side like that, and then you take the nuts off, wash off, and you slide this part in like that. It's going to be hard to show you this one-handed, so I'll put the nut and washer on the other side, so I'll do that. Now these things, you can loosen these nuts and that piece there can slide sideways, but then you put this guy here in and put in, and that sideways movement in this allows you to line it up to exactly where you need. So I'll get this up to about there, and then I'll just move it across a bit, center it, put that there. So what I'm doing, I'm levering on the shaft of the steering box, but I'm pulling down on the pitman arm, and I've got the nut undone just there so that it comes off, obviously, because you don't want to try and pull it off with the nut done up. And then I tighten this, and all going well, it'll pop it off. Now I've left the nut there as well so that it does pop off, nothing falls on the head. That's always something you don't want. Okay, so I got the pitman arm off. As part of the process to do that, it's not really necessary, but I undid the idler arm as well and dropped it off the chassis here. Okay, so what we have down here, this is looking down from the top, so air cleaner, etc. So what we have, this hose here, the rubber one with the hose clamp, is the low pressure, and the metal one beside it, just there, is the high pressure. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm correct in saying that the high pressure is the power, the fluid going to the pump, from the pump to the box, and the low pressure is the return line. So we're going to disconnect those. I've got a drip tray below there. You can see it below on the ground there. This fluid will run out. Fluid runs out of this thing anyway. And I've got some wires and stuff tucked beside my fuel pipe, which shouldn't be in the way. And I've got to take the bolts off from the rag joint here. So the rag joint being this flexible joint from the bottom of the extension shaft. Bottom of the extension shaft. Oh, actually, that's something I'm pretty sure in the kit. There is a rebuilt extension shaft. Pretty sure. I'll have a look at that. So anyway, extension shaft, rag joint, steering box. So I'm going to undo a couple of things. And if I do need to take the extension shaft off, it's that up there. How about we have a look at the kit for a second? That's better. Okay. Steering box. Now, when I take the old one off, you've got to see this one is a lot bigger, but it fits in the space. So I'm told, fits in the space absolutely perfectly. So what is included? This is all covered in dust. It comes beautifully wrapped and protected and everything when you get it, and then I leave it sitting around. Reconditioned extension shaft, new uni joints or whatever in there. I think I need to use my old bolt from there. I actually happen to have a brand new one sitting in a packet somewhere. Brand new hardware to hold the box in. Those 3 bolts I've shown you with the appropriate washers, and some fittings here that go into the steering box. There is instructions, I haven't looked at them for a while, but this one here, let's take them out for a second. So this one here, low pressure, so this goes into the steering box. Was there a rubber over in there? Anyway, that goes into the steering box for the return, and this is the high pressure. And I think from memory I've got to have a fitting modified on my high pressure pipe to go in here, and that is one of the main reasons I haven't done this kit previously, because I couldn't afford to have the truck off the road to have that done, because I've got to take the pipe off and get someone to fix it for me. Pertec, fluid connectors, one of your hydraulic suppliers, or even Race Works or something like that. So we'll get this box off and we will have a look more. Now just down here, just to be sure, that there's a plug there and a plug just there that block this off, so no dust or anything has got into this while it's been sitting around. Okay, so I've got the slip joint off up at the column there. I was going to take the rag joint off, but it's hard to hold it and undo it at the same time, so I figure I should be able to just drop the whole contraption down underneath, steering box, rag joint, extension shaft together. Can't see any reason why you couldn't do that in your general standard Holden setup as well. This is just pretty much the same underneath. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, there we have it. We got the box out and got the power steering box out with the, as I said, the intermediate shaft, extension shaft, I think it's intermediate shaft, the rag joint and the top joint there. So rather than undo this bolt and the one on the other side, as I said, I just did this top bolt, slid it off the shaft. So it's splined. It can only go back on one way, I believe. I'm pretty sure I'm right when I say that. And that's my box. So it's ready to be rebuilt if someone wants to do that. That's not my problem at the moment. It's not what we're doing. Managed to make a little bit of mess here, but not too bad. Okay, so the old, the new. And if it looks bigger, that's because it is. It's a lot bigger. But this thing, according to Port Steering and Suspension, and I have no reason not to believe them, fits into the same spot that came out of. This shaft, standard shaft, fits straight back onto the column, no dramas, all good, same length, same placement, pitman arm goes on. The only thing that needs to be changed is the high pressure pipe. I know, quite incredible. If you're worried about where you're going to fit this thing in your engine bay if you've taken this out, Port Steering and Suspension are absolutely convinced that your car was originally designed to take that steering box, and then for some reason General Motors, Holden, decided to put that steering box in. In Port Steering and Suspension's opinion, this is a far superior box. I need to check, but I think it's 3 turns lock to lock. I think these are 5.5, 6, something like that. Much more feel, much more performance. Don't know, this is all just their theory, but Port Steering and Suspension reckon that GM designed this chassis structure, HQJXZ, WB, to take that box and then for economical reasons probably put this box in. Because yeah, maybe they end up getting a deal for $500,000 of these or whatever, 200, whatever, for substantially cheaper than this one. But in their experience, which is vast, they claim that this is a far superior box in every way. It's just physically bigger. Now you might say, well, how's it going to fit, Todd? And that is a valid question, because I don't know, because I've never fitted one. But what I can say is this, that although it is a physically larger box, see that big, well, firstly the 3 holes, 1, 2, 3, holding the light and the camera so I can't point. 3 holes, and then there's a big dimple in the chassis rail right in the middle of the camera. That dimple was always bigger than the box that is installed in there. It is big enough to hold the new box that goes in there. And that was actually what made Port Steering and Suspension start looking into this conversion, thinking, why is the dimple in this chassis so large? And then the I wonder part of their brains started going. And then one thing led to another, and they came up with the box that goes in there. So, I'm going to put it up there. They supply 3 new bolts to bolt it in with. I'm only going to use 2 of them because I'm really not in the mood for taking my bumper bar off to get that bolt there out. But other than that, I'll use the other 2. Mine were brand new when I put that box in anyway, so I'm not concerned. Sorry about that, Stuart from Port Steering and Suspension, but I'm only using 2 of those 3 bolts that you supplied. Now when we look at the other box, when we look at this box, we see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 mounting holes. I'm going to assume, and I need to look at the instructions, I've still got them, I'm going to assume that we don't need that hole. But we do use these and they line up with the same place that they came out of. But I guess if you wanted to, you could probably use that one. And I was looking at the chassis over here before, and again, I might find that in the instructions it says, no, it won't say, because he only supplied me 3 bolts. But I was actually wondering whether somehow that hole there could somehow line up. There's no hole on the other side of the chassis for that, but not concerned. 1, 2, 3, that'll do me. Now that's a rhyme. I'm going to jump in the swimming pool because I'm actually I'm really struggling to be doing this at the moment. Not through motivation. Well, it is sort of through motivation, but lack of motivation due to the fact that I'm absolutely swelteringly hot and I keep smashing my head and I've had trouble getting this out. So I'm going to come back, I'm going to regather, I'm going to jump in the pool, cool down, have a cool beverage, come back, and then we'll start installing this thing, and maybe I will have a bit more zip, more spice, more pep in my step and in my voice. I'll see you after I've had a bath, a pool, a swim. Okay, I'm back. I'm revived. I've had a swim. I've had a swim. I feel fantastic. Well, I did for about 30 seconds and then I got out. It's only 34 degrees today, but in my shed that means it's 44 degrees. That's Celsius. Anyway, so we're going to put this thing in. Got to put this guy in. I'm imagining this one is going to be heavier. I'm not going to attach the intermediate shaft in the first place. I'll just put the box in and we'll go from there. So if you're not aware, your pitman arm is keyed, so it's got these notches in here. Some only go one way, some go more than one way. I actually can't remember with these, but there's only 1 or 2 or 3 ways that they can actually go on, so it's got to be clocked the right way, so we'll worry about that once it's in there. I did mean to read the instructions from Stewie while I was off after going in the pool, but I forgot, so I'll go and do that. But we'll get this box bolted in. Let's do that. Righto, looking down from the top again, from the engine side, that's the steering box in place, so you can see it from here through to there. Haven't put the pipes in it yet. All I've done is put the 3 bolts to hold it in place. Fits in there perfectly thus far. So you can see this point here, this is where the intermediate shaft goes. So if I wasn't convinced that this was going to fit, because I know the person that did it, I'd think, wonder if I'm going to have enough room there. But I'm pretty convinced there's not going to be a problem for all the reasons I said earlier. So I haven't completely tightened the bolts up yet. I wanted to just make sure it all looked good. But just to show you before anything else is bolted in, that's the box there, the front of it there. Plenty of room. It's not actually touching that lower radiator hose. It's within a couple of mil, but it's not touching it. I've got a 350 Chev in a HQ chassis, in case you're wondering, but it shouldn't make any difference what motor you're running. So let's get it back up again, and we will check out. I'll tighten the bolts up, and we'll just have a look at what it looks like under there before we go to those further steps, start putting things back together. And from the bottom, all snugged in there, fits beautifully. What can I say? It's almost like it was designed to be there. Look at that, eh? That big indentation in that chassis is nicely filled by that beautiful looking steering box. So, as far as the fittings go, we'll get to the other stuff in a minute, but the fittings, the only modification that I need to do is the high pressure pipe. So the low pressure pipe just pushes onto the barbed fitting, and the high pressure pipe, it has that male fitting on it to go into the Holden version, and this here, so that end goes into the steering box, and this end here I need to have a fitting made. I need to take this pipe off and have a fitting put on, a female fitting that accepts that. Alternatively, I could get some sort of adapter, I guess. I can only assume that that fitting and that fitting, well, they are different because they are a different setup. So that's why that can't go straight into the top of the box. So this will go into the top of the box, and then that will need to join to it. That's the only part I've got to sort out. So that's the only thing that it is, to the best of my knowledge, it's going to stop me from driving it today, and it'll probably be a few days or maybe even a week because of the time of year. Let's continue to put this together. Now that I've got the box all fitted and tight, I'm going to loosen it off and almost take it back out again. Why? Because now that I've read the instructions, port steering and suspension make a point of saying put your intermediate shaft locating dowels, put that intermediate shaft on, because otherwise you're not going to have room to do it afterwards. So let's do that now. Maybe I should have done it earlier. Instructions. What are they really for? They're a guide. I've only got one of the bolts loosely in there, the very front bolt in fact, and the reason for that is so that I can grab the steering box, and if I can get my hand in there, so I can grab the steering box and lift it up like that, so that I can get the intermediate shaft, this guy, and pop him over the dowels, just there. Go. I think the paint might be, I'll try it the other way, but I think maybe, no, got it the wrong way. That's because these little lugs, they go like that, that's right. So that goes like that, so, like that. See how that just fell out? If that box was in the right position, like all bolted up, I can't get it in there. So that's why I've got to leave all the bolts loose, only put one in, try to keep that like that. Get this guy, sit him in like that, and once he's there, then do the bolts up. Now I don't know if you have to do that normally, I don't remember having to do it that way with the Holden box, but maybe this box is just a bit longer and maybe it's something to do with that. Look at that, it's just fallen into place for me. I'll do those bolts up and then we'll come back to the next step. Next I'm going to fit the top of the intermediate shaft, focus, fix the top of the intermediate shaft to the bottom of the steering column. I've got to make sure that this crescent lines up perfectly both in the intermediate shaft and on the column here. That's where the bolt goes through that holds it all in place, so it's got to be absolutely spot on. It can't be a spline out or anything like that. This is incredibly hard to film, so I'll do that. There was absolutely nothing difficult about that. So that intermediate shaft is fitted on there, bolt goes through, all nipped away, nice and tight. So you got the splines there that locate it to stop it spinning or anything like that, and then the crescent, the cutout in the shaft, this bolt goes through to stop it being able to pull down as well. But this joint moves backwards and forwards. It's like a constant velocity joint, I guess, in regards that it spins, it rotates, and it sort of has some articulation in it as well, I guess, to allow for the suspension to travel up and down or movement. I don't really know why, but it does it. And obviously we've got the rag joint down there, or the torque amplifier, as port steering and suspension will let you know that it is really called. Okay, I'm going to re-bolt up the power steering box. Box is tightened up again. As I said, the slip joint's on, it's all connected up to the column. Now I've got to make sure that the steering is centered. So this is a three turns lock to lock box, and the instruction I've been given is that the bolt that holds the flange onto the steering box, so right at the front of the box there, see if I can point it, that bolt right there needs to be vertical, so straight up and down. And when it's doing that, then the coupling that holds it onto the column, that guy there, should be horizontal, so parallel to the ground, so going acrossways. Then once you've got the steering box centered and you know that everything's in the right place, then you can pop your steering wheel off and center it. Steering wheel off and straightening it later, because I can do that by getting the steering in the forward position, the straight ahead position, the way that I just showed you. We're going to do that later, but at this point in time I'm going to put the pitman arm back on. So I've just got to make sure the wheels are pointing forward and as best I can, the forward direction. It only goes on a certain way because of those larger splines there. So I get the pitman arm, it should line up pretty readily with there. So let's see if I can do that while holding the camera. I'll need to wiggle it backwards and forwards a bit to get it to line up. Maybe I can see, where are we? Let's get some light on the subject here. So that is one of the wider ones there, for example, so there should be one right at the back. There should be another at the front. Impossible to film. You can see one to the side here, one on the other side. So just got to make sure that they line up here. So it can only go one of 4 ways, but each one is 90 degrees different to the other. So if I can get this to line up with that, this front one to line up with that, then I know that it's in the right spot. Sway bars bolted back in. Everything is fastened and tightened. The pitman arms back on. I actually had to loosen the steering box bolts off again to get the pitman arm on. It's all lined up and everything as it's supposed to, but it was just on a bit of a skewed angle. Bash my head again. So it's all done up. I've just cleaned all the grease nipples throughout the front end, and I'm just going to, while I've got the opportunity, except for that one, while I've got the opportunity, while it's up, I'm going to go through and grease everything. And then I'll jump up the top and have a look at the hoses. As I said, there's one hose that I can't do, but the others should be okay. And then I can straighten the steering wheel. I don't know if I'll bother doing it right now. Might do it later. But that is pretty much it. Now, pretty simple. It's taken me a while. It's been a hot day and my brain hasn't really been switched on. It's a pretty simple job. So we'll wrap it up at the end. Everything's greased up, so that should improve it. Just simply greasing all the ball joints, tie rod ends, all that sort of stuff makes a massive difference, I find. Just tightens up what could otherwise be loose. I would say tightening up things that are loose, like that, make a difference, and putting on a beautiful new power steering box should make a difference as well. But what was I about to do? Oh yeah, so I've got to take the power steering, the high pressure power steering hose off, because I've got to have it modified, and I'll give you the specs on that in a little while. So I'll just cut the cable ties that are holding it in place. I've just got it running through here across my fabricated radiator support and bumper bar bracket. So I'll undo that, but it's also leaking there. So I'm going to try and fix a leak from the back of that power steering pump at the same time. Okay, I got that high pressure pipe off, and as it does in summer, it's now raining and there was thunder before, so of course the kids next door are still riding their motorbikes. As it gets louder, okay, so that's the pipe. This is the high pressure pipe, so this is the end that goes to the power steering pump, so that won't change. This end here, I have to have a different fitting put on it. It needs a 9/16 male JIC fitting, and what that will do is that will turn that from a female fitting into a male fitting that will screw into this guy right here. So as it is at the moment, that's not going to work. So we need a female fitting there. We'll attach onto this, and then this goes into the box, and I'm just about to put that into the box. This doesn't screw straight into the top of the box because it's a different type of fitting, as I've said earlier. Take these blanking plugs out of the top of the box so that I can fit the hoses in. I believe each hose will only go into its own position, but just unscrew these, so they're just throwaways. Take those out and put the fittings in. One. These boxes, when they come from port steering and suspension, are fully reconditioned, as is every component. If it's not a brand new component, it's a reconditioned component. And obviously they will warrant their work. So that's those. I think they're different, so let's see. Got the pipe fittings in place, just need to put the low pressure pipe on, and then that is all I can do at this point in time until I get that fitting. What was it? JIC 9/16 male fitting. I'll slide that on as far as I can. So we'll tighten that up, and then it's just waiting until the shop's open. Righto, back into it. It's about a week later. Because it's the Christmas period, everything's been closed, but I've just been up to my local hydraulic hose supplier, Pertec at Cardiff, up near Newcastle in New South Wales. So highly recommend them. Really good service, no mucking around. Did it almost while I waited. So let's have a look. Rather than put a new end, so this is the piece that I needed. The part on the end here. So rather than just put a new end on my existing pipe, what they had to do was they used this part, which goes onto my power steering box. So they reused it, and then this is a new hose through here with a new fitting with that 9/16 PIC fitting, I think it was. And then this is the piece that I had. So I think I said male before. They needed to put a female end on it, obviously, because the part that I had was male. So this is what I got with the box, and this is the part that they did, and this is just the old part of my pipe. So if you're going to do this, what they do need is the original part of power steering pipe, and then this. I imagine they could probably manufacture something, or you could do something, someone could do something, but they were thrilled that I was able to walk in with this. So I'm pretty sure they took this off and they re-welded it in here somewhere, and then flared it on and all the rest of it. So I didn't have it shortened. It'll probably end up being about that much longer than it was before. So I didn't have it shortened or anything. I thought rather than having it short and not being able to reach, I would prefer that it was just a little bit long and sort of manipulate it that way, rather than try and get too fussy with it. So I'm going to connect that up, and then we should be able to bleed, we'll fill up the hydraulic fluid and bleed any air out and everything. I did also try and buy some tyres, some new tyres. I can't get 235 70 15s. No one seems to have them anymore. I've found one or two online, and they want like ridiculous money for them, like $800 for a tyre, and that's not going to happen. So I'm probably going to change to 235 60 15s. I had 235 70 15s. I like the high wall on the with the 70s. So on the back here I got 275 60 15s, really big chunky wall. I think it's appropriate for the size of the guards and everything. So I'm not really keen on going on the lower profile on the front because these are big wheel openings, but I might not have any choice unless I go to a light truck tyre, which is not being ruled out. We'll see. I'll fit the box end up first, not the box, the pump end up first, and then the box end. And where that new fitting has been fitted, it will allow me to clock this pipe the right direction, or orientate it the right direction. So I'll get this all where I want it, and then the other end I can have it anywhere I like. All I got to do is do this up. So let's put you down and I'll do that, but that'll be done up. Then this will run across the front with the other power steering pipe. The other power steering pipe, like that, the return, and then it'll go into the top of the box. I'll be refastening the hoses back in place, and I use P-clips. So you see the bolt here, I got the bolt going up through this brace, Obviously, if you've got a standard Holden, none of this is relevant, but if you're using P-clips, I'll just show you how I like to hold them together. So this is the one that I had on there. It's actually a bit smaller diameter internally than this one that I'm about to put on there, because the new pipe is a bit bigger. But all I do, I've got two hoses up there and I want them held in place, so I get two P-clips and put them like that, with the little eyelets together, and then I run the bolt up through them and it holds them both in place right next to each other, securely, tightly and neatly. Pretty simple. These aren't expensive to buy in a kit. Of course you won't be able to see, but I got the pipe into the back of the power steering pump, and then I've got it routed across underneath the radiator, which you also can't see, but more importantly it comes around here and to the top of the box. So this is the one we just had done. So this is the low pressure, this is the high pressure. So I've put that piece in, that comes with the kit, and this is the new fitting on the pipe that I had made. So what I was trying to say before was that I had it all fitted up in the right location, right orientation and everything at the pump, and then the hose comes through, and now all I've got to do, so I've tightened this up, that piece there, exactly where I wanted it. Now all I've got to do is tighten up this, which is that fitting that I had put on there. I'll say the PIC fitting, but if that's not right, then it's something like that. So I'll tighten that. I'm going to get a spanner and hold that side in a second so I don't go snapping anything, but basically if I hold that side and tighten that side, then we should be a sealed unit. Then all I need to do is put fluid in there, and there's a bit of a trick to bleeding the fluid through, I am told. So I've got a second set of eyes helping me here. Oh my goodness, look at those eyes. Okay, so we're going to tighten those and then we'll bleed it through. I've filled the reservoir with DX3, DX4, DX5, it's all more high-tech stuff. Port steering and suspension, recommend DX3, nothing more is needed, and they don't see any reason to use anything more than that, so I'm just using this one. So I've got my reservoir filled. Now what I'm going to do is take the coil lead out, and then I'm going to crank the car over just to get the process started, to get some fluid cranking through through the pipes and into the power steering box. It's a big box and it's empty, so it'll empty the reservoir or take a fair bit out of the reservoir very quickly. So as soon as I've done that, I'll top the reservoir back up again, and then I'll go through a bit of a bleeding process, which we'll come back to. Fluid level only went down a little bit, so now I'm going to start it and turn the wheel from left to right and left to right and left to right a few times, and then I will turn it off and let it settle for a while and hopefully work some air bubbles out. I should mention also, I've still got the wheels off the ground. Well, I haven't even got the wheels on it, but keep the wheels off the ground at this point in time so that you're not loading the steering box up. All I'm doing is moving it backwards and forwards, trying to bleed the air out of it without actually putting it through any real effort. So I'll let that sit for a little while and then we'll check the level again. Only a couple of minutes waiting time, and I can see that the reservoir is well in need of a top up. So I'll top it up, I'll spin it backwards and forwards a few more times just to try and get a bit more out. Then I'm going to put the wheels on the ground. I'll put the wheels on, then I'll put the wheels on the ground and load it up a bit, and back to front, back to front, so on. Trade left to right. And I'll take the cap off, and hopefully what will happen is that we'll get some air bubbles coming out. Now it's important in these earlier stages I've kept the filler cap on, because a big air bubble could just blow transmission fluid everywhere, or power steering fluid everywhere. So the little air bubble shouldn't be too much of a problem. So now that I've bled it, and I'll bled it a little bit more, then I will leave the cap off as I work backwards and forwards to allow that air to escape. Well, it's all systems go here. Not only am I doing my truck, Sam's doing some work on his truck. Did a bit of rust repair, a bit more. Hi Sam.
Hi Todd.
So yeah, he's just doing a bit of paint preparation now because rust repair is done. This piece across the top here needs a bit of a further clean up, but it's had that whole strip through the middle there replaced between the firewall and the plenum, which was awesome. And look at the inside of this cap, just incredible. This is all replaced. This had pretty much no floor, no what are these things called? Rocker panels, sills, whatever. No cab corners, no back of the cab. This thing has had a lot of work done. A lot of work. So hats off to Sam. And his dad's not bad either. And then of course out here making all the noise, we got Davina. We got Davina restoring a table. Bit of Baltic pine, I think. Bit of shabby chic, I think they call that. But back to what we're doing over here. The Chevrolet. So I put the wheels on, dropped it down. It's not fully loaded up, but it's got enough load that you can feel it. And I ran it backwards and forwards. It started doing that noise when the pump got empty, and I turned it off, and sure enough it took a fair bit of fluid. So we're getting it through. So I'm going to do that again. Well, there's only one thing left to do, and that's take it for a test drive. So Sam's coming along with me, whichever side he's on, and he's going to film how excited I am. Okay. Sitting in the truck, about to take it for a drive. I've just driven around my lawn a bit, just backwards and forwards. I need to take it for a drive around the block to basically get the rest of the air bubbles to dissipate, and then I should never have to do it again. I will check the fluid level when I come back, but really what I want to see is what this feels like, because this thing was pretty horrible in the steering before. That was because it was worn out, so it's not a perfect comparison, I guess, because I'm not comparing a good old power steering box to the new conversion. So there is that, but it was pretty horrible before. But what I can say is that already just driving it, it feels tight and firm and short turns. It's only 3 and a little bit turns from lock to lock. 12 to 1 steering box, by the way. So I'm going to take off, and Sam's holding the camera, by the way. I'm going to take off, and I'm going to get Sam to film the steering wheel and stuff like that while I'm going around some cul-de-sacs and bits like that. So let's do that. Oh, it feels lovely already. I've still got to straighten the steering wheel. Haven't done that yet. Smell all that stuff burning off. I tell you what, it feels completely different. There is no comparison. It was light and floaty before. Now it feels firm and race car like, but it's still light. It's got more feel, it's got a bit more weight, but it's certainly not heavy. Like, it's bloody lovely. So if you've got a HQ, J, X or Z or even a WB steering box car, whether it be a Ute, Statesman, 1-tonner, panel van, Monaro, whatever, do this conversion. Contact Port Steering and Suspension, Stewie. I'll give you his details. I'll take a photo of his card and I'll put it in the comments, the description as well. It was an easy thing to install, and I can tell already it was worth doing. Speak to Stewie about the price. I'm a mate, so he looked after me, so I'm not going to talk about the price. And also I bought the kit off him like close to 2 years ago. But let's have a look at this little turning circle here. Back the other way. Oh, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to hit the tree. Look at that, eh? That is bloody lovely, I have to say. And look, she works. She's good. Do it. Be nice to yourself. I know Christmas has gone. Incidentally, I didn't say it previously. I hope you had a good Christmas. It's now a few days past. By the time you see this video, it'll probably be about New Year. So don't go out New Year's Eve. Watch this video. Got Sam behind the wheel, doing about 90 kilometres an hour on an open country road within the speed limit. And before it felt pretty sketchy. We were floating around all over the place. Now it's just, it's lovely. Isn't it, Sam?
It is indeed.
So what do you reckon? Is it for you? If it is, port steering and suspension. I get nothing out of this, by the way, but he is a friend of mine. I went to TAFE with him. The guy is a brilliant mechanic. He has been working on this setup for 10, 12, 15 years that I'm aware of. He's had HQs, Statesmans, Monaros, all sorts of things. And he is a master of front end steering and suspension. Got a bit of race pedigree behind him as well. So, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you on the next one. And once again, if you stayed to the end, I really appreciate that. And by the way, I wish that cicada would be quiet. By the way, I now have about 1,030 subscribers, I think it is, as of this moment, which is fantastic because I put a call out some months ago. I was up to 200 subscribers. So, you know, that's a massive, massive thing. I'm really, really proud of that and really pleased, and I really thank you. So, if you think this or any of my content might interest someone else, please let them know. Give me a thumbs up. Love your comments. Criticise me. Get stuck into me if I lied to you that it wasn't intentional. Well, it was intentional, but I wasn't trying to deceive you. Anyway, I'll catch you on the next one.